Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for October 10th. Still feels weird to say October on an update, but I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 86 in the house, and the conversation finally happened. It did. Rubina talked to MJ, and we're going to talk about it today. And with me to talk about it today is Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
I'm doing good. Listen, when a one-on-one is happening on the feeds that is important, a HOH level one-on-one, a veto one-on-one, you thought Corey Wurtenberger was going to get that scoop? No. Those happen on my updates. We're here. Sorry, Corey, but it's outside of your jurisdiction on that one.
this the beginning of a Pooya Corey rivalry for content on the updates.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's some days where I'm like, I wish there wasn't content. I wish I don't want it. But Corey, no one feels this pain like I do as someone who did the BB Can updates on Fridays. It ain't a good spot to be in. So I sympathize with him. But
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, MJ and Rubina finally did talk. And I've been saying all week long, there's a chance that this could have a significant impact because Rubina is willing to make a lot more offers, a lot more solid deals than Cam will be. And she does, in fact, do that. But what I will tell you from the start is that from the start, it felt pretty clear that the tone of the conversation from MJ was that this was too little too late. And we'll maybe find out a little bit why later. But Rubina makes a few different arguments, right? One is Chelsie is more likely to take Cam to the final two than she is to take me to the final two. So if you want to be in the final two and you think that Chelsie might win the final three HOH, by cutting Cam, you're increasing your odds of being in the final two by taking me because Chelsea's less likely to take me than Cam. In addition to that, Cam is more likely to take Chelsie to the final two than I am because I am willing to promise you that I will take you to the final two. And Cam and Chelsie, they've been together for a long time in this game, and they're very likely to take each other. Cam is also more likely to win the final three HOH in the first place. So for all of these reasons, it makes a lot of sense to keep me. And those are all good arguments.
Yeah, especially when you then also sweeten the pot with, and hey, if I make it to final three with you and I lose, you get my vote at the final two. That sweetens the pot, if anything.
It does. MJ, however, is concerned about one thing in particular. And this is good on Cam for introducing this piece because it has really been sticking in MJ's mind where she says, I'm just concerned that you would win in the final two, Rubina. I don't think Cam can, but I think you can. And the concern for this, I think, comes from a few different places. One, obviously, is in the event that she's sitting in the end with Cam or Rubina, she would like to win. The other is like I do think, genuinely believes that only her and Chelsie deserve to win. And so the idea that she would bring somebody along that might accidentally steal the win, even if it's not from her, but from Chelsie, that's no good either. So she is concerned that Rubina might be able to win in the final two. And this gets them started on the bulk of the conversation, which is one of those arguments about whether you're capable of winning in the final two or whether the other person is capable of winning in the final two, with both people talking themselves down and talking the other person up, where Rubina's like, what do you mean? I don't even have a good resume at all. And MJ's like, what do you mean? You're going to get T-Core's vote. You're going to get Chemo's vote. You have such a good story. Do I have a good story? I feel like I've been dragged this whole time. You have such a good story, MJ. You've won so many things. Yeah, but I've just needed to win things the whole time. And I've all my whole game is just winning comps. Yeah, but you have such a good story too, and you have some good relationships. Yeah, but I burned my relationship with Leah. Yeah, but you still had a relationship with Leah. I didn't. So on and so forth.
Yeah, honestly, and this is part me making the joke, but part true real life. This is how it is giving a compliment to Chappelle, because he'll be like, "No, have you seen all the things you've done though?" It's like, man, I just said you had a good podcast. Like, let me be. Like, I just thought you were great. But I mean, the reality is, it's this weird charades people try to play at the end of the game, which is for MJ, she's trying to not get cut at Final Three. For Rubina, she's trying to make it to Final Three. And it's a very hilarious thing to see, but also to be expected.
So this goes back and forth quite a lot. But Rubina does touch on one thing, which is that she says, like, the only thing I can say with certainty is that I do genuinely think that you can win in the end, MJ. I really do. I think that you have such a great story and such a great shot, and you've won so many competitions. Against Chelsie, yeah, that one's hard. That one's tough. I mean, that's the hard one because she does have a really good social game. She's super close to Quinn. She has T-Core. She did have a good relationship with Leah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about Angela, but like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not looking great for you against Chelsie. Like, and then there's me and Cam.
What does that suggestion mean?
That was all she said. And Chelsea's jury management, it's been very good. And of course, you know exactly what MJ said in response to this. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
And what about it, Rubina? I know, and I like it that way. Yeah.
MJ goes on. I had a little bit of trouble following this. MJ goes on to say that this game was much harder for her because people expected her to win just because based on who she is and what her background is, whereas Cam has gotten to do nothing and there's no pressure on him to win. Something along those lines. It was a very confusing point to make. But like that's kind of the tone of the conversation in general, is that it's still this notion of like things were harder for MJ and therefore she deserves to at least get to the final two. The point here is that the conversation doesn't exactly go super well. It does not introduce any new points. Rubina, she does hit the points she's supposed to hit. She does introduce the uncertainty that should be introduced to MJ of like, you lose to Chelsie, what are you doing? But unfortunately, it's not what the bulk of the conversation is about. She gets caught up in this little argument about whose game is better between the two of them and who would win between the two of them, which I don't think is actually that helpful for Rubina. If anything, it I think just hurts her. Ultimately, MJ comes away from this conversation not really having changed her mind. She tells Chelsie about it, and she says she's basically still leaning toward keeping Cam. And to, hammer the nail into the coffin, Chelsie says, oh, and she's not even telling the truth about taking you to the final two. She's promised me things in the past too. Like, she's just lying anyway. If this is the one conversation that Rubina is going to have, it is definitely not going to be enough.
No, and there's a lot of different ways to look at it and factors to consider as to why it's not going to work out. I think number one, the longer you wait to have a conversation like this, when you've had like 4 or 5 days, it'll feel more rehearsed. It'll come off a little bit more like you had to think about this and figure out how to frame your argument. But that's not even a good argument to make because, like you said, there's some really good points here and there's some really good arguments to make. Talking about storyline of the youngest versus like one of the oldest. Not all hate that argument. I think it's a good argument also. And all the other factors we've brought in about like winning, final three vote, whatever. But it got muddied, Taran. This was like a 30 to 40-minute conversation where 5 minutes of it was this stuff, and then the other was, to your point, all this like random filler, which we have a 40-minute conversation. You're going to remember 35 minutes worth more than 5 minutes worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's hard to believe somebody saying they'll take you to the final two when they obviously need to say that, and they waited 5 days to say it, and they said it once, and then they talked something else for 35 minutes.
Right.
Like, it's just it's a lot easier to not buy. And so Chelsie goes and gives Cam a heads up, like, hey, MJ talked to Rubina. She'll be looking to talk to you again. This has kind of been the MO for Chelsie over the last few days, is have a conversation with MJ, then have a conversation with Cam, telling him he should talk to MJ. And then he goes and talks to MJ. So he does. And she says she's still leaning toward keeping him. He hammers the point home again that Rubina will win in the final two. That has been his point to make, and he has made it well, and it is really stuck in MJ's mind. She says, yeah, Rubina was trying to tell me that like T-Core might not vote for her. And Cam's like, are you kidding? T-Core literally left this game saying she only wants Rubina, Chemo, or Chelsie to win. And that kind of kicks off this conversation about like, well, yeah, Chelsie does have better jury management than us, says MJ. And Cam agrees. He says, I'm not stupid. If I stay and I win, this will be my only opportunity to actually try to win the game. So they're both talking around this point of like knowing and understanding that Chelsie, at the very least, has a good chance of beating the both of them, and that against each other they have the best shot. Now, how much of this do they genuinely believe? How much of this do they actually care about is the big question. But like, the weird thing about this is that normally in this spot, if you have a scenario where like you're Chelsie and you're being taken by both people, it's usually because it's like they think they can beat you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one of them is loyal and then the other one is tricked into thinking they can beat you. Maybe they're both tricked into thinking they can beat you. It's not usually like, yeah, she beats us, but I don't know.
I mean, this is just more of a testament to Chelsea's ability, I think, that despite being recognized and acknowledged as having the best chance to win, this is still not really a consideration as of right now. I mean, obviously you stand there with the final HOH power. Who knows? That's a moment that'll feel like a forever moment when you make your decision. But she's tied them both up real good. She's put this like big connection in. And I don't know. I don't see it going the way these two are skirting around this conversation, as of right now, at least.
Yes. Now, and this is the section of the update for me where it's like I've got to mention this, and I don't want people to like make it seem like I'm trying to nitpick Chelsie, because it's not what I'm doing. But like, it's important to point out that this exists, right? Because if for some reason MJ and or Cam do cut Chelsie in the final three, I don't want people to be like, where did this come from? Oh my God, Taran, why didn't you tell us? Like, this is definitely a hole that could cause some problems for Chelsie in 3 if it ever goes anywhere. If they do end up cutting Chelsie, it likely stems from this notion that they do understand that Chelsie is the harder option to beat in the final two. So watch out for that, even though I don't think it will likely come like cause any major issues, because Chelsie has had them on lock for so long. But it's, we have seen wilder things in the past. So, it is something to put a pin in for now. Now, one of the arguments that Cam makes, just to, hammer his own nail in the coffin, which I thought is one of the funniest campaigns I've ever heard, and actually weirdly effective. Cam says, well, I've checked in with you 3 times, and Rubina only checked in with you once. So
the laws of numbers dictate 3 is greater than 1. Mathematically, he's on point with this argument. It's ironclad.
It's irrefutable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, factually.
MJ then goes on to say, and this is, listen, I stand corrected, because a couple of days ago, MJ said that if Rubina, maybe it was even yesterday that I talked about this, that MJ said that if Rubina didn't talk to her until Wednesday, she was just going to straight up evict her, no matter
Yes.
what she said. And what I said was, she might say that now, but it's not like she's gonna hear the best deal in the world from Rubina and then be like, sorry, you waited until Wednesday though, so I'm not gonna accept it. And, there's still a world where that's true. But it turns out waiting until Wednesday actually was a really big thing for MJ, because she goes on to explain to Cam that she was praying on like Friday night about how like she needed a sign from God that she should evict Rubina. And that she was praying that if Rubina didn't talk to her until Wednesday, that was her sign from God that she should evict Rubina. And then lo and behold, Rubina waited all the way until Wednesday. Listen, we've been dogging on Rubina this week. We didn't realize that she was up against God.
Yeah, you're not going to win that HOH veto battle back AI arena. That is not going to happen. Yeah, I have no problem with people's faiths ever. I definitely hear something like that and I'm like, well, isn't that a coincidence? Like that kind of worked out for you then. That exactly Wednesday is the day it came. But listen, good for her.
Truly, and for the record, I am not intending to make light of MJ's faith.
No.
This is a silly strategic, like wait until Wednesday. Therefore, it's the right move for me. I think is a silly move. Her faith is her faith, and I have cast zero judgment about that. I just thought it was funny that I literally said, "There's no way she's actually going to wait until Wednesday," and then be like, "Well, that's the reason." And then it turns out that was actually the reason, or at least one of them. So there it is. MJ is very likely now going to be evicting Rubina tonight on the eviction episode that I will be live for on Twitch, hanging out, watching it. And then, of course, afterward, we'll recap all of it. And then tonight, they will also do their little final 3 dinner thing, where they'll do the recap of the recap. And then they'll do part 1 of the final 3 HOH, typically. Definitely now, because they have even less time than they normally do. So it's possible that by tomorrow we have the results for part 1. It's also possible that the feeds are still down for it, because they tend to be down for quite a while. You never fully know, but I will be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to let you know what's going on. Anything else to talk about from yesterday, Pooya?
Not that I can think of. This was a delight. Again, we got a little bit of content here to mull over, and I was happy to do it.
Yes. Well, stay tuned for all of that. Of course, the finale fast approaching on Sunday. In the meantime, you can check out the Circle coverage Pooya and I did this season. Very fun season, especially if you like drama and strategy. We also did an interview with one of the stars of the season. So you can tune in for that as well. And the Summit episode 2 aired last night. Also a very dramatic episode, I will tell you. They might have murdered somebody. I'm not sure. You'll just have to watch me and Chappelle react to it, because we are covering the Summit this season. And jet lag, we had a great interview with the jet lag guys. Check out the We Know Scripted feed for the Tastemakers, where I'm watching as much horror content as possible this month, and also keeping up with all the other stuff going on to let you know what's worth watching. All of that stuff. Pooya, what do you got going on?
I've got, aside from the Circle, of course, 90 Day Fiance. Fun episode this week with Sasha. Myself and Scally are talking Traders Canada. Very fun episode there as well. The Faithfuls have no idea what they're doing, and it has been so entertaining to watch. And Liana and I on our last season of The Masked Singer, talking Masked Singer this season, season 12. Check out the podcast for episode 3 coming out this weekend.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you next time.